In this presentation today, we're going to be discussing the question, what happened to Vice Admiral Holdo? So I hope you're enjoying the package so far, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. Without further ado, let's get to this video now. Obviously, it's a question that many people think about. Certainly, I would say there's a short answer and a long answer. The short answer, of course, is that Vice Admiral Holdo was in charge of the cruiser Raddus. She devised a plan to board resistance fighters onto transporters under a cloaking technology and secretly transport them down to the planet Crate, where they would send out distress signals to their allies on the outer rim. But this plan went awry when the plan unfortunately was revealed to DJ, who basically sold them out, revealed the plan to the First Order, following which the First Order started methodically picking off the transporters as they left the area of the cruiser Raddus. Holdo, in turn, in an act of desperation, pivoted the cruiser Raddus toward the fleet and then jumped to light speed directly into the lead ship Supremacy and critically disabled that cruiser, as well as many other ships in the flotilla. It would then appear that she sacrificed herself in the process. If you were to look up the bios of her and everything, it would say that she, perished in that event. Okay, so the first point I'm going to make here is that we immediately see that the Supremacy is, for lack of a better word, severed nearly down the middle, not straight down the middle, but it looks like one of the wings is totally severed, virtually with surgical precision, right? It wasn't like it was all bent up and everything. It was like a very precise surgical division of that wing from the rest of the ship. So much so that the ship was not destroyed. I mean, people were still carrying on. It was just like the wing was just detached, which then begs the question. I mean, the Raddus is not the size of an automobile. It's a large cruiser size starship. Logically, how does the Raddus, if it did in fact collide with the Supremacy, how does it surgically divide the wing off like that? Logically, I mean, it's a huge craft. How does it just sever a wing off? Why doesn't it just smash the hell out of it and there's a huge collision and fireball and both ships are just wrecked the hell up? How can that large cruiser just make a little, basically a slice through there? Are you following me? That doesn't make sense. Now you're going to say, well, I mean, it was traveling at high speed and this, not the other, but follow me here. I mean, what actually happened? Okay, so what you're going to say is that, well, I mean, you have to remember that yes, the Raddus is small, but it's traveling at a fantastically high speed, and just the law of physics would dictate that an object that small traveling that fast against a huge stationary object is going to lead to a devastating impact and everything. Yeah, but why a sort of a surgical slice of the wing? Why isn't it just a massive pulverization of both bodies, which I think physics would probably dictate. Now you would also say, yeah, but this is movie physics, and so we're going to suspend physics, a little bit for the sake of cinematic effect and all that type of stuff. But still, that said, it still doesn't make sense how the Raddus could just slice off a wing. And basically the Supremacy was largely left intact, except for the fact that a wing was off. But it was largely left intact. It wasn't destroyed, it wasn't pulverized, it was barely wrecked up. So this gets back to a key question here. So going back to these laws of physics, the Supremacy should have sustained a catastrophic collision, but it did not. Okay, and that does not make sense. The ship was certainly disabled. You could argue was massively disabled, but it wasn't destroyed or pulverized or anything like that, except for the fact that the wing was detached. It was still largely intact, nothing more. That should have been, if you're going to follow with you making the argument, oh yeah, well, something that small, traveling that fast, sitting in a stationary object, laws of physics, blah blah blah. Yeah, that's true, but if you follow the laws of physics, that should have been a major catastrophe, with that ship being totally destroyed and everybody on board being destroyed with it. Just a massive explosion of both the Raddus and the Supremacy. Even if it was going super fast, let's just say it rammed the Supremacy, not going at light speed. Let's just say they just had a head-on collision. It could not possibly just take off a wing and keep on going like that. It would lead to a massive, devastating explosion of both ships. But no, that's not what we saw. Then you say, oh well, light speed is different. They're not going to have a collision like that. No, I would think at light speed they would even more so have a collision like that. Even whereas just a head-on collision would leave two wrecked ships. If one was going at light speed, I would think both ships would be literally pulverized. Would you not? Isn't that what you would logically expect from that type of collision? But no. Let's face it. We saw the film. After the ship, let's face it. They carried on. They carried on like business as usual. It didn't even seem like any kind of major catastrophe. In fact, and I've seen this movie. I've gone back and watched it a few times now. I don't recall them showing anybody even dying. I don't recall them showing anybody having a fatality. They didn't even show many people being badly injured or burned, or people running around on fire, or people holding their broken legs. They didn't show anybody injured. They showed Rose and Finn lying on the ground in shock, basically, because they weren't even injured. Okay, they did not show not one fatality. Now, how plausible is that? How likely is that? Does that even make any sense from that type of collision? Okay, they didn't even show anyone falling, falling from a ledge or anything like that, right? That ship should have had massive. Think about it. If you sliced off that wing like they showed, okay. First of all, think about it. That's a huge wing. Okay, you would have had massive decompression on both sides of the wing, from the main body of the ship and from the wing of the ship, and that would lead to a massive decompression along the faces of both those, the wing and the ship. It would have immediately sucked out literally hundreds, if not thousands, of people into space just from the exposure to the direct space a massive decompressive event would have occurred. We ain't to see. There's no evidence of that. Not at all. In fact, following the scene, Rey had time to leave the ship on the Falcon, and Finn and Phasma had time to have a battle. People take issue it wasn't really about, but for what it was, they still did it after this massive collision. It wasn't like everybody off, everyone get out now. This is a major catastrophe. Everyone to the exit. No, they had time to talk and to argue a little bit and make snide remarks at each other and have a fight and all this kind of stuff. All after this happened. Okay? And think about it. I mean, at the time that this happened, nearly every major character in the movie was on the Supremacy at the time. You had Snoke, you had Rey, you had Kylo Ren, you had Finn, you had Rose, you had Phasma, you had BBO, you had DJ. All these people were on the ship at the time of this massive, unprecedented in the history of the galaxy event, and not one of them people died. They all survived. So this was the most uncatastrophic catastrophe that you can imagine. Okay, so the point of all this is that if the Supremacy could survive this collision largely intact with minimal fatalities, why couldn't the Raddus have ended up the same way? Why couldn't the Raddus have ended up the same way with minimal damage and minimal fatalities? Which gets to my next point here. What happened to the Raddus? Did we see it all wrecked up somewhere in the corner? Did we see any bits and pieces strewn all over the place? Did we see it all busted up in pieces? Did we see Holdo slumped over the control panel or anything like that? Did we see her bridge with smoke and wires coming down from the ceiling and sparks and gases? Did we see that happening on the bridge? I mean, did we see her dead? Did they show her dead? A dead Holdo in the Raddus as a result of this collision? I didn't see it. Did you? I mean, I've seen this movie several times now. I don't recall them showing any kind of wreckage of the Raddus or anything like that. They don't show Holdo. We don't hear from her. The Supremacy was largely intact. Even those other ships that got hit, they weren't blown up. They just had what I'll call like a strafing damage, if you want to call it that. But so all these ships were pretty much just disabled. When they go down to Crate, everybody that we know of is still alive. All Hawks and all the leadership is all alive. No, I mean, we name one person who died from that collision. No, they all lived on. So apparently none of the ships were destroyed. It's just they were all apparently very badly damaged. But everyone lived. So now why would you argue that, well, okay, everyone on the Supremacy lived, the ships were not destroyed, but we believe that the Raddus was totally wrecked and everybody who was on the Raddus is totally dead? Why would you make that presumption? Why? What did you see in the film that would lead you to believe that? What did you see that would support that argument on your side? Which takes me to my next point here. How do we know that Holdo and the Raddus didn't reach the destination? How do we know this? Or how do we know that didn't happen? What did we see in the film that you could make an argument to me that she did not reach her destination. She just didn't pivot the radius and push a button. No, she was what appeared to be typing in coordinates and all that kind of stuff. How do we know that she did not successfully reach to where she was trying to go? We know that they had enough fuel to jump to light speed. She didn't have to jump very far at all. It's not like she needed to jump to the next galaxy or to the next planet system. She just needed to jump a little tiny ways. Okay, like the smallest, whatever little dial they have, whatever little controls, she only needed to set it to the most minimal distance to do what she was trying to do. So it's not like she was going very far. Okay, well, how do we know that she jumped to light speed successfully? It took out these ships in the process, and they sustained minimal damage. She sustained minimal damage. She could well be at the destination, in shock, confused, startled, looking around, wondering what happened, wondering whether it worked at all. Maybe her communications are damaged, so she's not in position to say, hey guys, did it work? I mean, by the way, I jumped to light speed. I don't know if you saw it from that other ship, but I jumped to light speed. Did it work? Did it do anything? Where are you guys? By the way, I set the coordinates to go to this XYZ place, and here I am. I know I'm too far away for you to do anything about it, but I just want to let you know that I'm all right. I mean, there's no reason why we can't say, there's no reason that we can say that's not the case. You'd have a tough time making an argument to me that, oh no, that's not possible, because blah 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 blah. Okay, if you want to point out how that's not possible, comment down below and put your argument forward why you feel that's not possible. Now, full disclosure, do I think that she survived and she's out somewhere alive, wondering what happened to everybody? Well, I think the production and the way they've built it, and I think the production and the way they've categorized it and written her biographies and whatnot and portrayed it and what the director has said about it, it's all pointing to the fact that they really believe that she sacrificed herself. But having said that, the way they filmed it, I believe they left the door open to speculation that she could well have survived. So that wraps up this presentation today. So until next time, see you soon.